shortly.
Hello and welcome to this feature interview. I'm Kelsey Hubbard. The week before Thursday, President Drake Shum, students and faculty came together for the opening of the Inclusion and Dialogue Center. I have Director of Student Leadership Josh Von Castle on set today to talk about it. Josh, thank you so much for joining me on set.
It's good to be here.
So what is the Dialogue Center for students who don't know?
Well, it's a center that arose really out of discussions that we had in the spring, primarily through the President's Diversity Inclusion Task Force recommendations to create a designated space on campus for students to meet to talk about diversity and inclusion on campus.
And why did you name it such?
Well, we met this summer with the task force of faculty, staff, students, and alumni to talk about what we wanted to call it. And we started with the word inclusion because diversity is important, but if we're not doing the work of getting everyone at the table, all voices heard, then we're not celebrating and appreciating diversity in the ways that we should. And so we wanted to start with inclusion. The ampersand because it emphasizes connections and unity, and dialogue because we believe that any work that we do with inclusion begins and ends with meaningful conversation.
Right, and there's a rumor kind of going around that this and the other little cabin behind MCA are kind of connected or not really. Can you kind of clarify that up?
Well, they're not really, but I've had students who wanted to meet with me in the Scarborough House, which is where the Inclusion Dialogue Center is. They will go to the cabin, so it's good that you asked that question. The cabin has been here for a very long time, since the 1920s. It was moved to make room for the new McLaughlin Center for the Arts. It is just a general meeting space on campus, but it isn't connected to us, but it's very important to our history.
And so why did you choose the house that you guys are currently in?
Well, the administration chose that space. It was recently renovated along with the construction of the MCA, and so it was a nice space, very useful to what we wanted to do, small and intimate enough for us to have the conversations that we want to have, and so it was kind of a perfect spot.
Right. And so what kinds of things happen in the Inclusion and Dialogue Center?
Well, it's hard to answer that now. We are building a student leadership team that will help direct where the programming goes in the center, what some of the activities are that we do there. So until we really get that group up and rolling, it's hard to say what will happen exactly. But there are some resources already in the center, inclusion library with resources there, talking about lots of different identities on campus, an art gallery that reflects the intersectionality of different identities, and is also geared for one-on-one conversations, as well as 2 meeting spaces for student organizations.
And so you mentioned an art gallery. What kinds of things are displayed there?
Well, again, it's art, most of it contemporary, from artists who are really talking about diversity and inclusion in their art, but representing lots of different diverse populations.
Is there any student artwork in there, or is it just?
There isn't, but there is talk, and I really would like to do to get student art in there. Even sponsoring maybe or commissioning artwork that represents inclusion work on campus to replace the current gallery there.
Cool. And so what kinds of things can be found in the library aspect?
Well, again, resources that represent a lot of different identities. It's a growing library. We're taking donations from faculty currently, and there's also other initiatives, funding opportunities to help us stock that library with lots of resources. But currently, if students wanted to learn more about different populations of students and really anyone, they could find that in our library now.
Right, and there is some talk about the accessibility for handicapped to that space.
Yes, it's hard to have an inclusion space that's not inclusive to everyone, and so we have been in conversations with the administration, looking for funding opportunities, as well as our project manager on campus, to find some ways that we can make it accessible to everyone. We have ideas that we're working on right now. Folks who are looking at that space, I expect that will be occurring pretty soon.
Right, and so this center, did it come directly from the insights that happened last semester?
Partly and partly not. There has been talk for a long time about creating a designated space on campus for this work, but certainly the things that happened in the spring ushered in a conversation and ushered in the new designated space a little bit more rapidly than what we were thinking, and it's very important, and we value that feedback that we needed that space on campus, so it's been very helpful.
Right, and so during the summer you mentioned that people got together to talk about this. What kinds of things were said at that meeting?
Well, we talked about generally the basics, so the naming of the center, the mission and vision, and ideas that we had for intentional design of the space, as well as some ideas we had for programming that we could recommend to the student leadership team. So really it was covering the basics just to kind of get it off the ground for the fall.
Right, and so like I mentioned, there was a ribbon cutting. So what kinds of things happened at this ribbon cutting?
Well, we had several speakers. Chase Krickenberger, the SGA president, spoke. Julie Wilson, who is a professor in sociology, as well as our women's and gender studies program here. She was also part of the planning team in the summer. She spoke. Our chaplain spoke. The president spoke. We also had Safa, who gave a really nice Baha'i prayer at the very end. So it was really just a celebration of this new space.
Right. And so I know a lot of students don't really know about it. So how are you marketing to these students to try to get the word out?
We're doing a lot with social media right now, one-on-one conversations, interviews like this. We're also sponsoring a graphic identity contest for students, and they can email me if they want information about that, where we're trying to find a logo that we can use on all of our marketing to help identify the programming that goes on in that space as well. So lots of little things we're doing right now to get the word out.
Right. And this might be a little bit of a personal question, but why did you get involved in such this big project?
Well, I've been talking, and some might say nagging, about increasing our work with inclusion on campus for some time. It's a passion of mine. I was a student in undergrad here. I was a gay man, and I knew what it was like to be a student here from a minority population. And so knowing that I really had a passion for helping other students who were going through some of the experiences that I had, and I guess that passion translated to, well, he would make a good fit for that center when they wanted to have a professional staff there. I'm very grateful to be there.
Right.
It's very important work.
Right. And do you think that this center will bring lots of good to the campus?
I think so. If nothing else, it will start conversations that if they don't continue on in the center, they will continue on in other places on our campus. It's not our intention that only these conversations happen in the center. To do inclusion work well, it has to be the entire community. It has to be everywhere on campus, not just this little house that we've designated on campus. So it can certainly start there, but it has to continue everywhere.
Right. And so if I was a student kind of feeling, I guess, oppressed, if that's the right word, this would be a great place to go, or would the PRC be a good place to go, or just kind of like?
Both would still be great. And if someone came to the Inclusion and Dialogue Center, and we could see that maybe connection to the PRC would be better, we will make those kinds of connections. But for folks who are just questioning, wanting to learn more, wanting to have a conversation, wanting to explore their own beliefs and ideas, the ID Center would be a great place. But certainly the Powell Resource Center is also a very good resource to folks. And they're also talking about doing activities in the ID Center as well. So we're not little islands unto ourselves. We're going to be working very closely together.
And so if I really wanted to get involved in the center and help in any way that I could, what could I do?
Please email me, and I can direct you to the student leadership team as well as other organizations on campus.
Awesome. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on set and talking about this.
It was great to be here.
This has been your feature interview. I'm Kelsey Hubbard with Josh Von Castle.